I have been on this earth for 102 years. And I want you to think about that for just a moment before I say another word. 102 years, 3 husbands buried, 5 children raised. 2 of them I had to say goodbye to before my time. I have watched presidents come and go like bad weather. I have watched entire industries rise up, sell you something useless and collapse. And I am still here, still sharp, still in my garden every morning before the dew burns off. Every doctor who ever handed me a prescription and told me to stop using my plants is gone. Every last one of them. I outlived them all. Make of that what you will. Now they want you running to the pharmacy for every little ache, every cough, every stubborn patch of skin that won't cooperate. They have convinced you that healing is complicated, that it requires a degree and a copay and a little white pill that comes with 14 side effects listed in a voice so fast you can't even catch them. Child, please. The people who invented those rules haven't lived half as long as I have. Not even close. My grandmother knew plants the way most people today know their phone passwords, without even thinking. She'd walk out into that field behind her house and come back with everything she needed. She raised 11 children, and most of them lived long, healthy lives without a single trip to a specialist. She used what the good Lord put in the ground. And the good Lord, I want you to know, was very intentional about what he put there. Today, I'm going to tell you about 15 plants I have been using my entire life. Plants most people have completely forgotten. Plants that have been healing humans for thousands of years, and plants that if your grandmother was worth her salt, she already knew about. Let's get into it. Number 1. Calendula. My mother grew calendula along the fence line every single year, those bright orange flowers. Lord, they were cheerful. When one of us children came in with a cut or a scrape or a burn from the stove, she didn't reach for a cabinet. She went outside. They call it pot marigold now, and they sell fancy versions of it in boutique shops for $12 a jar. We made our own. Dried the flowers, infused them in lard, and had a salve that healed wounds clean without infection. Now the scientists have a word for what's happening when calendula works. They call it anti-inflammatory action from triterpenoids and flavonoids. That's just a fancy way of saying the plant tells your body to stop being angry and start repairing itself. And it works. Clinical trials confirm it. Medieval soldiers carried it into battle for a reason. They called it the war flower. You can't patent a flower. That's the only reason you don't hear about this more. Number 2, comfrey. Listen to me. This one has a folk name that tells you everything. Knitbone. People called it that because when you wrapped a bruised or sprained limb in a comfrey poultice, it healed like the tissue was being stitched back together from the inside. I sprained my ankle badly when I was in my 60s. My second husband, God rest him, wanted to take me to the hospital. I told him to go cut me some comfrey from the back garden and bring me the lard. He looked at me like I had lost my mind. That man, sweet but sceptical. 3 days later I was walking without a limp. He never questioned the garden again. Comfrey contains something called allantoin, which is a compound that tells your cells to multiply and repair faster than they normally would. Your body already knows how to heal. Allantoin is just telling it to hurry up. Use it on the skin only, mind you. Not internally. External use, it is one of the finest healers I have ever encountered. Number 3. Mullein. That tall, fuzzy plant growing in the ditch on the side of the road. Yes, that one. People drive past it every day and have absolutely no idea they're passing a lung remedy that has worked for centuries. My father smoked rolled tobacco his whole life and still lived to 84, which I do not recommend, but I will say this. When he got a chest cold, it was mullein tea that cleared him out, not syrup from the store. Mullein. The plant contains saponins. That is a fancy word for compounds that act like tiny scrub brushes inside your airways. They loosen the mucus. They help you cough it out instead of just sitting there letting it thicken into something worse. Modern cough syrups suppress the cough. Mullein helps you finish it. There is a difference between silencing a problem and solving one. Yes, Lord. Strain your tea through cheesecloth, though. Those fuzzy little leaf hairs will irritate your throat if you don't. My grandmother taught me that the first time I ever made it. I was maybe 7 years old, standing on a step stool at her kitchen table. Number 4, plantain weed. Not the banana. The low-growing weed in your lawn that you have probably been killing with herbicide for years. Stop that. Plantain weed is one of the most immediate first aid remedies that exists. You chew the leaf, you press it to a cut or a sting or a bite, and within minutes the swelling starts to calm down and the pain eases. Native Americans called it white man's footprint because it followed European settlers everywhere. They noticed it grew wherever the settlers walked. What's remarkable is that those same Native Americans quickly learned to use it themselves. When something useful shows up, wise people pay attention. A study out of Iran found that plantain ointment helped heal second-degree burns better than standard treatment. Second-degree burns. And it is growing in the crack of your sidewalk right now for free. They want you to buy expensive wound creams. The answer is already at your feet. Number 5. Yarrow. Soldiers have been packing yarrow into wounds since ancient times. Not because it was a nice idea, because it worked. It stops bleeding, it prevents infection, and it helps the wound close cleanly. I have used yarrow on cuts more times than I can count over 102 years. You crush the fresh leaves, you press them to the wound, and the bleeding slows. The science calls this hemostatic action. I call it exactly what my grandmother called it. The herb that keeps you from bleeding all over everything while you figure out what to do next. Yarrow also makes a fine tea for fever. Drink it hot, get under the covers and sweat the illness out. That's the old way. Not comfortable, but effective. The good Lord made yarrow hardy enough to grow almost everywhere on earth. That was not an accident. Number 6. Self-heal. The plant is called Prunella vulgaris and the folk name is Heal All. Now when something has been trusted long enough that people named it Heal All, that is a reputation built over centuries of actual results. Self-heal is particularly good for the mouth and throat. Gargle a strong tea of it for a sore throat. Use it as a mouth rinse for canker sores. Apply the crushed leaves to small wounds. It soothes inflamed mucous membranes, which is the scientific way of saying it calms down irritated wet tissue. It grows low in lawns and meadows with little purple flower spikes that bees absolutely love. If you see the bees going to it, that is your sign. Bees know. They have always known. My granddaughter called me last winter with a mouthful of canker sores. She was miserable. I told her to find self-heal at the herb shop and gargle with it 4 times a day. She called me back 5 days later sounding completely different. She said, "Grandma, how do you know all this?" I said, "Honey, because somebody loved me enough to teach me. Now I am teaching you." Number 7. Elderberry. Oh, this one they finally brought back. Now they sell it in gummies and fancy syrup bottles in every health food store, and they act like they discovered something new. My grandmother made elderberry syrup every fall before the cold season hit. Every fall without exception. Elderberry has been studied properly now. They found that it reduces the duration and severity of colds and flu. The compounds in elderberry called polyphenols, that is just a fancy word for what gives the berry its deep purple colour. Those compounds interfere with how viruses attach to your cells. Viruses need to grab onto something to make you sick. Elderberry makes it harder for them to get a grip. Your body does the rest. We made syrup by simmering the berries with honey and a little ginger and clove. A spoonful every morning through winter. I have not had a serious respiratory illness in longer than most people reading this have been alive. That is all I will say about that. Never eat the raw berries. Cook them first. That is important. Number 8. Bone set. Now here is one they have really forgotten. Bone set. Eupatorium perfoliatum. In the 1800s, during flu epidemics, every household kept dried bone set for when the fever and the deep bone aching hit. They called the flu break bone fever because of how badly everything hurt, and bone set was what people reached for. You make a hot bitter tea. Lord, it is bitter. And you drink it at the very first sign of flu symptoms. Get into bed. Let your body do what it is trying to do. The bitterness is part of it. When I was a girl, my grandmother told me that medicine that tastes bad is medicine that means business. I have believed that my whole life, and I still do. Traditional herbalists described it as helping the body mount a proper fever response. Your fever is not your enemy. It is your body fighting. Boneset helps your body fight well. They replaced it with medications that suppress the fever and send you back to work too soon. Now you wonder why everybody stays sick all winter. Number 9. Blue Vervain. This one is for the wound-tight people, the overthinkers, the ones who lie awake at night running through every problem and conversation from the past decade. You know who you are. Blue Vervain is what old herbalists called a nervine, a plant that calms and strengthens the nervous system without knocking you out. Your cortisol levels, which is just a fancy way of saying your body's stress alarm system, can stay elevated for so long that your whole body suffers for it. Chronically high cortisol breaks things down. Your digestion, your sleep, your immune system, your heart. Blue Vervain helps your nervous system stop screaming. I've made Blue Vervain tea in the evenings for decades. On the nights when the grief got loud, because at my age you carry a lot of grief, or when the mind would not quiet down, that tea would help me find my way back to stillness. Bitter as sin, but worth every sip. Number 10. Early Campane. When the chest cold turns into something deeper, something that settles into the lungs and lingers for weeks, that is when you call on Elecampane. Inula helenium was the herb for deep, stubborn lung infections, not the quick cough, the long one, the one that is still rattling around 6 weeks after everything else cleared up, the one that worries you. The root contains compounds called sesquiterpene lactones. That is a fancy phrase for the stuff that calms chronic cough and fights respiratory infections on a deeper level than most things you will find. Antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory. It works slowly. You take it in small amounts over weeks. Not a one-time fix. A long-game remedy for a long-game problem. My third husband had a chest that never fully recovered from a bad pneumonia he got in his 50s. Every winter we used Elecampane root through the cold months. It made a difference. A real one. He always called it his winter medicine. I still grow it in my garden. That tall plant with the big dramatic leaves and the sunflower yellow flowers. Every time it blooms, I think of him. Number 11. Oregon grape. Oregon grape is the plant that modern dermatology is quietly beginning to admit actually works. For psoriasis, for eczema, for those stubborn, inflamed skin conditions that nothing seems to touch. Multiple studies now confirm it. Topical Oregon grape extract improves psoriasis symptoms significantly. The plant contains berberine, an alkaloid with genuine antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory effects on skin tissue. The bark of the roots and stems is bright yellow. That yellow colour is the berberine. A cousin of mine suffered with psoriasis her whole adult life. Embarrassed by it. Tried everything conventional medicine offered. Came to stay with me one summer in her 60s and I put her on Oregon grape salve every day without fail. By the time she went home 6 weeks later, her skin had changed. She wept on my porch, said it was the first relief she had felt in decades. Child, there is medicine growing in this world that they are not telling you about. Number 12. Meadowsweet. Now here is one that will make your eyebrows go up. Meadowsweet is the plant that aspirin was based on. Before synthetic aspirin existed, people drank meadowsweet tea for headaches, fever, arthritis pain, and stomach inflammation. When chemists developed aspirin, they derived it from salicylate compounds found in plants like meadowsweet and willow bark. But here is what they lost in the process. Meadowsweet does not damage your stomach lining the way aspirin often does. In fact, traditional healers used it to soothe stomach inflammation while relieving pain at the same time. The whole plant works differently than the isolated compound they pulled out of it. That is the problem with the modern approach. They find the one thing they think is doing the work, they pull it out, they synthesize it, and they end up with something less balanced and more problematic than what nature had arranged. My grandmother made meadowsweet tea for headaches and for anybody whose joints were giving them grief. Pleasant taste. Slightly sweet with an almond fragrance. The good Lord made it easy to take because he knew you would need it often. Number 13. Barberry. Barberry has been used medicinally for over 2,000 years. Ancient Persian medicine, Ayurvedic tradition, traditional Chinese medicine. They all knew this plant, and modern science is now confirming why. Barberry contains berberine, that same powerful compound from Oregon grape, but in higher concentrations. And current research shows berberine is effective against bacteria, fungi, parasites, inflammation, blood sugar management, and cholesterol. Real clinical research, not just tradition. With antibiotic resistance becoming a genuine crisis, scientists are looking hard at berberine-containing plants, because some strains of bacteria that have developed resistance to pharmaceutical antibiotics are still vulnerable to berberine. Ancient medicine becoming cutting edge again because we are finally running out of alternatives. I take a small amount of barberry root tincture regularly. Have for years. The taste is intensely bitter, the kind of bitter that makes your whole face participate. But I have outlived every critic and every skeptic who ever questioned what I put in my body, so I will keep on. Number 14. Red clover, growing in meadows and along roadsides and in fields across this entire country. Red clover. And most people see it as a weed. Red clover contains isoflavones, plant compounds that have gentle estrogen-like effects in the body. Research confirms benefits for menopausal hot flashes. Traditional use included long-term tea for chronic skin conditions like eczema and for general inflammatory complaints. I've been making red clover tea for women in my family for 3 generations. When my daughters went through the change, red clover was part of what helped them through it. Gently, without the complications that come with synthetic hormone treatments. The taste is mild and almost sweet. The good Lord would not have made it so pleasant if he did not intend for us to drink it regularly. Harvest the flower heads from clean areas. Nothing that has been sprayed. Dry them and make a simple tea. Drink it consistently. It is a long game plant, not a one-time fix. A nourishing, steady medicine. Number 15. Lemon balm. I have saved this one for last because it connects to something I want to say to you before we finish. Lemon balm. Melissa officinalis. In my garden right now, sprawling and fragrant and completely unbothered by everything. It smells like sunshine and lemons. The bees are wild about it. Lemon balm calms anxiety, helps with sleep, eases nervous tension. Studies show it reduces cortisol response. Remember what I told you cortisol was? The body's stress alarm. Lemon balm turns the volume down on that alarm without turning your brain off completely. I have made lemon balm tea every evening for as long as I can remember. My mother made it. Her mother made it before her. There is something in that continuity that I want you to feel. Now, before you go, I want to tell you something that has nothing to do with plants, because the plants are not actually the whole secret. They never were. I have buried 3 husbands. I have buried 2 of my children, which is a grief I cannot put into proper words and will not try to. I have lived through things that would have broken other people. And I am still here, still in my garden, still on this porch, still talking to you. The real medicine, the deepest one, is not in any root or leaf or flower. It is purpose. It is waking up every morning and deciding that you still have something to offer. It is letting go of the bitterness you have been carrying against people who wronged you 30 years ago, because bitterness will kill you faster than any disease I know. It is laughing, truly laughing. The kind that shakes your whole body and makes your eyes water. The inflammation in your body, the microbiome in your gut, that is your gut bacteria, your whole internal ecosystem, responds to joy. It responds to belonging. It responds to forgiveness. The science is finally catching up to what faith knew all along. God did not put you here to be sick and afraid and buying things you do not need from people who do not care about you. He put you here to live, fully, generously, with your hands in the soil and your face toward the light. My grandmother used to say, the Lord made the medicine, and the Lord made the person, and the Lord made the day. Your job is to show up grateful for all 3. I have been showing up grateful for 102 years, and I intend to keep right on. Now I'm going to go check on my lemon balm. It has been trying to take over the whole left bed, and I need to have a word with it. You take care of yourself, and remember what I told you.